Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. In this video, I want to break down how I filmed the two shots that you just saw. I recently picked up an Amaran 300C and wanted to do some initial tests just to see how the light would basically react with a daytime or daylight scene. Both of these shots were filmed on my Sony FX30 just because it was me doing the filming, the lighting and everything. I needed to rely on the autofocus to keep myself sharp. But with all of this being said, let's jump into the breakdown. Starting off with the first shot here, it's a fairly standard medium wide, and I always like to start with the wide shot because notoriously it's the hardest shot to actually light. You can't just push in, you've got a lot of room in the frame where you can't hide fixtures, you can't hide stands, you can't hide softboxes, all of that stuff. So we start with the wide. Like I said, the main key source here was the Amaran 300C. I had a Godox 120cm softbox here with 2 stops of diffusion and a grid to control that spill. And the color temperature of the 300C was set to about 5600 Kelvin, motivated by the natural daylight pouring in through the windows just to the left of me. I actually had the 300C mounted on a kind of small rig studio photography style light stand, and I know that this light with the 120cm softbox is way too heavy for this light stand, and if I was with a client I would never mount a light on this, but for this application and the fact that it was just in my lounge, I thought that it was fine, and I basically just put 2 sandbags on the light just to hold it down, and if anything was to happen, at least it's kind of in a controlled environment. I also turned on the lamp in the background. Now what this did was add some much needed texture, shape and colour contrast into the frame. Just helps to really add that depth into the frame because everything around, all the tones were very muted, natural, nude tones. So it needed a pop of colour in the background. In terms of the composition, I had the FX30 positioned maybe 20-30 centimeters below my eye level. The reason I did this was because I wanted this to feel very much like a fly on the wall experience, just kind of looking at me drinking this morning coffee, and I think dropping the eye line and me sitting on the floor really helped to make this feel quite cozy and natural, and give it that kind of moody morning look. I also used the corner of the sofa to create some more depth. So framing wise, I basically put the corner of the sofa in the bottom right hand corner of the frame, and what that did is basically just add 3 layers of depth to my frame. So I had the light in the background, me in the kind of middle ground, and then in the foreground having the corner of the sofa. And to add even more texture contrast into there, I basically just added a blanket onto the sofa so that it would balance between the texture on the wall behind me and then also the texture in front of me in the foreground as well. That's pretty much it for the first shot. One light, I was getting some natural kind of bounce and fill off of the wall just to the right of me, and overall just really happy with that kind of cozy, moody morning look that I created here. Moving on to shot number 2, kind of a medium close-up. I wanted to cut between the 2 shots basically by me taking a sip of coffee, so a super simple concept really, and to achieve it I basically just left the 300C exactly where it was, and all that I added was some artificial fill. I actually used 2 pillowcases that I had upstairs. The reflector that I normally would use was in the car, and the 300C was already set up in front of the door, so I basically just grabbed those 2, stuck them on another small rig stand with a boom pole and just clamped the 2 together. And what this did, like I said, is really just kind of pull out some of the detail and add some feel into the shadow side of my face. I bounced the 300C off of the pillowcases, and I actually just removed the corner of the grid as well, which helped to kind of spill a bit more light onto the pillowcases and just enhance that fill that I was looking for. Looking at the composition of shot number 2, I basically moved the camera in and also raised the height of the camera. If we're going really low with a tighter shot, it can just feel weird and not right. Raise the camera's angle and it just helped to kind of see a bit more of the window and all of the lamp in the background as well. Overall, I'm really happy with the 2 shots that I've created here. Using the 300C, I had it on about 40% brightness, so it's more than enough light for what I needed in this kind of daytime morning application, so really happy with that. The big soft source coming from the 120cm softbox replicates that light coming in from the window really naturally, and the 2 shots just cut together nicely and just feel right, which I think is the most important thing. You can get into the technical details of things, but if 2 things cut together right and it feels nice, then that's really all we're aiming for. So now let's talk about the problems, or what I do differently next time, because it's always important to kind of look at your mistakes and learn from them, and that's how we get better. To start, I would just get rid of the pillowcases and go and get the reflector from the car. It can always feel like a pain in the ass to go and get that extra piece of kit or to put things on pause for 5 minutes whilst you set something else up, but more often than not, it's always worth it. It's always worth using the tool, the right tool for the job, rather than just something else that you're kind of, putting together. Secondly, the curtain in the background is really untidy, and I noticed this as I was kind of packing everything up, ran straight to the camera, checked if it was in the frame, and of course it's in the frame. It's always really important not just to check the frame of your subject and maybe some kind of compositional elements, but also to really look at every single detail in that frame, because you can't go back and shoot some stuff. I could have set this up again, I'm not going to because it was just a test, but next time I will definitely be checking every single inch of that frame to make sure that everything in there is perfect and makes it feel real. And lastly, there is one huge error in the cut between these two shots. See if you can notice it. So I don't know if you saw it or not, but the cup of coffee is actually in a different hand. This is a massive continuity error, and if an audience member sees this, it's going to immediately pull them out of the scene. That's pretty much it for today's video, just a simple cinematography and lighting breakdown with some new kit that I wanted to test out. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you would do different down in the comments below. And with all this being said, that's everything. Take care. Bye for now.